And here we go.
Welcome to the Great Work Insights Podcast by the O.C. Tanner Institute, the show that features the people, the professionals, the thought leaders, and the coolest companies. And now your host, the man navigating the discussion about the culture, the organized chaos, and the best practices that compel great work, Todd Nordstrom.
Think for a second about the last time someone inspired you. Maybe it was something they did, revealing just what might be possible in this world. Maybe it was simply the way they handled themselves during a heated or a high-pressure situation. Or maybe it was something they said. Somehow, the way they said the same thing you've probably heard numerous times throughout your life finally resonated. You finally got it. It clicked. Any inspiring situations come to mind? Ironically, when most of us think of those face-to-face situations, we think back and recall people from our distant past. Maybe it's a teacher or a coach or a mentor at one of our first jobs. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone inspired you online? You saw a quote on Facebook, or maybe you read an article on Forbes or watched a TED Talk. Have you ever wondered why those quotes or posts or TED videos or any video for that matter can generate so much attention, but somehow your morning speech to the team seems to fall on deaf ears and goes nowhere? Our guest today can give us some insight into what might be happening. Chris Bennett is the CEO of a company called 97th Floor, a full-service digital marketing company. These are people who spend every day focused on understanding why some words, videos, phrases, sayings, and articles inspire and somehow go out and keep going out into the world while other messages just fall flat. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
Hey, Chris, before we dive in, I want to clarify to the listeners that one of the reasons I became so curious about you and 97th Floor was your philosophy. Listeners of this show probably don't consider themselves digital marketers. In fact, the words digital marketers might actually scare many of the listeners today. Tell the listeners your philosophy about communicating a vision.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, kind of in the world that we live in today, everybody's a marketer. If they're participating online at all, they're marketing themselves, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
Or the products, that they're consuming. But we can get more into that later. As far as my philosophy on communicating a vision, whether it's to a team, an employee, the community, social network, even your family, kids, anything, it really starts with passion. I believe that if you don't believe in what, the vision is you're trying to communicate and you don't have passion around that, it's very transparent and it's not going to go very far. And so I believe if you're trying to, get people on board with your vision, you gotta start with passion.
Where did you come up with this philosophy? How did you growing up come up with passion is the thing that counts?
I'm very passionate about what I do, and it kind of came from my dad raising us kids. My whole family is all entrepreneurial, and we were all my siblings, and we were all raised with the belief that you should not do what you hate. My dad was a great supporter, a great provider. He was a pharmacist, really good, stable job, but he hated it. And he'd come home every day telling us, don't be a pharmacist. He went to school for a long time. He was on his feet all day. And the worst part about pharmacy is all your clients are sick, right? You got everybody coming in talking to you who doesn't feel good that day, and they just want to get their prescription and they want to go home. And they also don't respect you like they do the doctor, even though you might know, more about that prescription than the doctor does.
Sure.
So he instilled that in us, and, no matter what you do, make sure it's something that you love, something that you come home every day and you're excited to do it again the next day. So I always had that in the back of my mind going through school, and kind of looking forward to the future as to what I wanted to do, to make sure that it was something that I was going to be passionate about and something that I loved regardless of the income.
Yeah. Let's rewind a second and let's go back to what you said when I first introduced you, and explain more why everyone is a digital marketer today, because, I think most people think that they pop onto Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and maybe they find a quote or they write something that really kind of inspired them, but they don't view themselves as marketers. Talk more about why anyone that's online is in fact a digital marketer.
For sure. If you're really, the only way to not be a digital marketer these days is to not be online at all. So because if you're tweeting about something, a restaurant you liked, then you're marketing that restaurant whether you know it or not, because everything is, social now. People want to know what their peers think about different products and food and things like that. Like you said, if you post an inspiring quote, and maybe that's what someone who follows you on Facebook needed to hear that day.
Yeah.
So regardless of what you do, you're marketing yourself and your environment in some way, to those that are, subscribing to your various feeds.
Well, and it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people realize that when to wrap the term marketer around us, because when you like your local pizza restaurant or whatever it may be, that gets shown to the world, and you are marketing something about yourself. That's really interesting. When we talk about communicating a vision, there's one thing to say, okay, I want to go and communicate. I'm really passionate about, saving the whales or whatever my passion is in life. So I can go online and say that. But when it comes to work, why is this so different? What is the most difficult part about communicating a vision to employees? Is it more difficult?
It can be. I believe if you really are passionate about what you're doing at work, though, then it could be the same as, saving the whales and things like that. You obviously don't need as much convincing when you're trying to talk to someone maybe about a charity or, a big altruistic thing. But my passion for what we do is the same as, the charity work I'm involved in or things like that. And not because I feel that work's just as important, but more because I feel that what we do at our company really does help people. I actually kind of went through this recently with the company in a company meeting about 2 months ago, and I was trying to kind of reinstill the passion in them. And I was talking about how, look, when we help our clients market their products better, you're creating more revenue for the economy. Mm-hmm. You're helping your clients look better at their jobs and maybe helping them with promotions and things like that. And that financially helps their family, in their situation. You're helping provide more jobs for those of the people that made the product, and I kind of just laid it out where, yeah, maybe we're on the fun marketing side that seems kind of thin and not so important. But if we really move the needle for our clients' business, we really do make a really big impact both on the job side and the economy and the quality of life of the company, the employees at the companies that we're representing.
It's interesting because basically you just explained how a boss or a manager or a leader in an organization can show the impact that their people make by showing by going through how many levels of impact does your work have here. It's to the clients, it's to their revenue, it's back into their families, and it's so on and so on and so on. And it goes a lot deeper than we often think. I just need to get the project done, right?
Totally. Yeah, I think a lot of times we just look at that as the end game, and I was trying to help break it down that it's really so much bigger than that.
It's interesting, before we started this call, I was kind of asking you a few questions about 97th Floor, and you were telling me that you're about to celebrate your 10-year anniversary, and you were telling me the stages of growth. How is it? When you're a startup, it's easy because you've got, a handful of people around you. And now how many employees do you have right now?
Right around 50.
Right around 50 employees. And most of those were in the last couple of years, correct?
Yeah.
When you bring people in and you get the team wound up, how do you keep employees inspired after that initial rush wears off, where, your employees, for example, are working directly with clients, and some clients might be somewhat of a pain, or maybe the content to your employees isn't the most exciting thing to them. How do you keep people excited after they realize I'm making a big impact in this world, and after you say, here's the new vision, here's the new plan, and this is the impact we can have? What do you do?
Totally. And it's a big, thing to figure out, because like you said, when we first started and we're in an office and there's like 5 of us, everybody can kind of feed off of my passion and my experience. I was doing a lot of the client facing work, talking to the clients. So they're feeling my passion. So even if one of my employees at the time was just looking at it like a job, my client would have never known, because they were, talking to me. If a client was hard to deal with, I didn't really care, because it was my client, right, and my company. And so it was easy to deal with harder clients. Whereas, now I don't talk to the clients on a day-to-day basis. The employees do. And so it is a much bigger issue, and something we need to do. Now, I think, my passion can kind of only go so far. I think one of the most important things and one of the best things I've done has been hiring people, or seeing people kind of grow in the ranks below me that are just as passionate about the work, and the company as I am. And so you really need as you start to grow, you really need other people that are on the same trajectory as you are, as I am, to help kind of bleed that around. Because then it's not just the business owner, and it's not just one crazy guy at the top who, is passionate about it. There's the new employees and stuff start to think, hey, maybe something is going on here, because a lot of the people I met today are really passionate about what they do and are having a lot of fun and, and are excited. So you really need good team members that are on the same page in terms of their commitment and that they really do, feel fulfilled in their job.
Well, and the social media world is changing so fast always. And I'm sure that you're getting employees in and they may start in one area of the business and then you realize that, whoa, they really are interested in and passionate about this other area. Maybe we should shift them there. Is that how you handle that?
Yeah, that happens organically a lot, where they start to dive into stuff. They come in and under one discipline, and then they start to dive in and see how, especially in digital, everything crosses over from search to social to everything. And then they start to find little aspects that they really, really like. And I really encourage that. I want people to be, find aspects that they love and kind of niche themselves in that way and be like the expert in that area, and then make sure they're proficient in everything else, but have something that really gets them out of bed.
Chris, I have a question for you, and it may be a little bit on the philosophical side, but just from hearing you talk, I'm thinking about my audience right now, and my audience, many of them are managers or they're leaders in organizations, and they may be listening to this and thinking, yeah, that's, 97 Floor is doing all this cool stuff. They're doing this social media marketing, and I'm stuck in my job. And what if someone doesn't know what they're passionate about? What advice would you give them?
It's a good question. And one of my top employees at our company, our current COO, he and I talked about this a lot a couple years ago, because when we were talking about passion, at first you think, well, how can I be passionate about a job? And you're told you're supposed to do something you're passionate about. What does that mean? You're supposed to quit everything and go become a pro surfer, because that sounds so much more, passionable. Like you could be more passionate about that. And at first I feel like a lot of people feel that way, unless it's something really sexy and cool and fun. How can you be passionate about it? But what I try to help people do is kind of like I explained earlier that I did a couple months ago with the company, is really break it down and look at what you're doing and try to find some aspect that you can be passionate about. And for an example, I have a brother-in-law that started a pest control company, and he's very passionate about it. He's not passionate about bugs and pests and dealing with that, but he's very he likes to be his own boss and have his own company. So he's passionate about that aspect. To him, it doesn't matter what product he's selling. He just loves that he's out, pushing a product for himself. And you don't also have to be a business owner to be passionate about your job as well. I try to encourage you, find different aspects, break down what it is that you're doing. And maybe it's not the work itself, but maybe it's the fact that the work provides a certain, thing that enables you to do something that you wouldn't do at another job.
Yeah.
Maybe they're more, maybe it's something like that, or maybe it's the income you get from the job and you can hopefully turn that and push that into something you're passionate about. But I do think if people can really step back and kind of look at things a little differently, they can find something in what they're doing that they can be passionate about. If they really can't, or when I have people come to me and say, I can't, I'm not passionate about what I do, it's not fun, I also kind of want to look at their whole life. Are they passionate about anything? Because I just feel like some people just aren't passionate about anything, and that's a different issue than the job they have. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those annoying people that always says the latest restaurant I ate at was the best restaurant I ever had, or if you ask me how the waves were this morning, they were the best that I've had in a long time, or things like that. And I just really like to enjoy life that way and be passionate about a lot of things. And so I think some people need to look at that too. If they're not passionate about really anything in their life, I don't think it's the stuff that's in their life. I think it's more their outlook.
Well, it's interesting too, like you take the example that you gave of your brother-in-law and the pest control, and you compare that to like the example you gave earlier in the conversation about your dad. Your dad didn't get to see the impact he had on people because they take their medicine, they go away, and they get better somewhere else. Your brother-in-law, on the other hand,
doctor, not the pharmacist.
Yeah, and your brother-in-law, on the other hand, he's walking into people's homes, and he's the lifesaver if you've got a roach problem or a whatever.
Yeah, or scorpions.
Yeah, they love to see him. Yeah, that's really interesting. Great stuff, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today. I personally have worked with your company before, and you're all fantastic. If listeners want to learn more about you or 97th Floor, where can they find you?
So 97thfloor.com, and it's spelled out 97thfloor.com, like the 97th floor of a building.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Twitter, I'm just at Chris Bennett, ChrasBennett, and then we're at 97th Floor on Twitter. And between those two places, the website and there, you can find us anywhere else too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Hey, thank you.
Would you like to be featured as a guest on Great Work Insights? If yes, we want to hear from you. Leave us a comment with who you are and what you're all about at www.octanner.com. Also, remember to rate, review, and subscribe to all our podcasts on iTunes. Now get out there and build something beautiful. It's your turn now.